doesn't like a good movie? Films are great. They are thrilling, scary, funny, nerve-wracking, sad, happy, and dramatic.
Oh, no, she didn't!
Films show us parts of the world and the human experience that we haven't seen before, and movies and television are a big part of our pop culture and the way we view society. But when you think of the famous faces behind the scenes making our favorite films a reality, who do you think of? Yeah, you probably think of a bunch of white men, right? But what if I told you that women had a big part in creating the film industry and what Hollywood looks like today? In 1896, Alice Guy Blaché directed The Cabbage Fairy in Paris, making her the first female film director and the first filmmaker to ever use narrative storytelling. But even though women built up the film industry, men took over, destroying their legacy. It is important that women be represented both on and behind the screen to help break down barriers towards both women and other minorities, and to give credit to the women who shaped the way our beloved movies are made. To tell this story, let's start at the very beginning. In 1893, Thomas Edison and his good friend William Dixon invented the kinescope, creating the first way for people to commercially view short films. In 1889, Thomas Edison took a trip to Paris, where he met a French scientist who turned a gun into a camera. Edison was inspired by this idea and went back to the States, where he built the kinescope, in which a strip of film was passed rapidly between a lens and an electric light bulb to project stop-and-go images that created movement. Thomas Edison founded the Edison Company and began making very short, documentary-like films. Anyways, let's get into the fun stuff. 1 year later, in 1896, a very talented female film director in France discovered that film could be used to tell stories, not just capture videos of random things like a person jumping rope, even though that could have hidden meaning. Anyways, produced by French company Gaumont, the film The Cabbage Fairy was directed by Alice Guy Blaché in France. Alice Guy Blaché, the first ever woman director and a pioneer in filmmaking. Born on July 1st, 1873, Alice Guy Blaché began her career as a secretary for Léon Gaumont and made her first film in 1896, The Cabbage Fairy. From 1896 and 1906, Blaché is thought to have been the only female filmmaker in the world. She was also the first woman filmmaker to build and operate her own business. After moving to the U.S. with her husband, together they founded Solex Studios in Fort Lee, New Jersey, which became the center of the film industry in America until LA. Blaché was also a pioneer in filming strategies, including the split screen, double exposure, editing, and the close-up shot. Blaché was also one of the first filmmakers to add color to her film by hand-painting each frame. Some say she also made the first music video in 1905. Radical. Blaché's impact in female representation. Other than being the first female film director, Blaché highlighted social issues and women in her films. One of her films, Two Little Rangers, is about two female cowgirls. She also directed The Consequences of Feminism, where gender roles were reversed, erasing her legacy. However, after Alice Guy Blaché stopped working for Léon Gaumont, Gaumont wrote a book about his company and erased all traces of Alice's contributions and achievements. Unfortunately, she is still often excluded from film history today, even though she made over 700 films. Hollywood becomes big business, and men kick women out. In the late 1920s, movies become big business. Full-length films could cost around $200,000 to $1 million. Movie production became the biggest industry in LA. As a result, wealthy businessmen saw an opportunity and put small independent film companies, many of which were run by women, out of business. Studio unions were also made, and they did not accept women. However, despite the fact that women almost vanished from the face of the earth of filmmaking, someone named Dorothy Arzner continued to kick butt. Let me tell you about her. Dorothy Arzner. Dorothy Arzner, born January 3, 1897, San Francisco, California, was the first openly gay film director, and she had an essential role in the transition from the silent era to the talkies by inventing the boom mic. She was also the first woman to be part of the Directors Guild of America. Her career started at Paramount, where she was a screenplay writer and editor in the early 1920s. In 1927, Arzner directed her first film, Fashions for Women. Arzner directed 16 feature films, making her one of the largest female feature film makers to date. The creation of the boom mic. When Arzner was barely 30 years old, Paramount asked her to take leadership in making Paramount's first talkie film, The Wild Party, 1929. When making the film, movie star Clara Bow, who played the lead role, struggled with her physical performance because she needed to stay still so the on-set microphone could pick up her audio. Because of this, Arzner came up with the idea to rig a microphone on a fishing rod and have people lower it over the actor's head so they wouldn't be restricted. However, later it was patented by a man, so sorry, Arzner. The Golden Age. The 1940s is considered Hollywood's golden age. Although still male-dominated, women continued to break barriers in this time. For example, Ida Lupino began directing films during this decade and became the second female member to join the Directors Guild of America. And Heidi McDaniel became the first African American to be nominated for and win an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in Gone with the Wind for her character, Mammy.
It is with the knowledge that this entire nation will stand and salute the presentation of this plaque that I present the Academy Award for the best performance of an actress in supporting roles during 1939 to Hattie McDaniel.
The impacts. In the late 70s, Lena Wertmuller became the first woman nominated for Best Director at the Oscars. Then, finally, in 2010, Kathryn Bigelow won the Academy Award for Best Director for her film, The Hurt Locker. So it took 83 years for a woman to win this category. Soon, Chloe Zhao became the second woman and the first woman of color to win Best Director for Nomadland in 2020. And Jane Campion became the third in 2021 for Power of the Dog. Overall, Hollywood would not be what it is today without the pioneers like Alice Guy Lachey, Dorothy Arzner, Ida Lupino, Heidi McDaniel, and many more. The short-term impacts from the silent era of the first female directors led to films becoming big business. Then, when women were forgotten, pioneers like Ida Lupino fought for women's rights in the industry. And finally, in 2010, Kathryn Bigelow won the Academy Award for Best Director, which should have been awarded to a woman much sooner.